Chris J here from Bluecoat Foundation. Today we interviewed Autumn Starr. Some of you might know her as Janet McKinney. On this podcast, we honor the life of police officer Mario Navidad Jr. He passed away in the line of duty on Sunday, December 22nd, 1996. He is survived by his wife and 2 children. This year will mark the 25th year of his passing. And on this interview, Autumn gives a very powerful and personal account of the struggles she had with Officer Navidad's death. She was actually on scene the night it happened, and she gives an account of her experience. We hope that this interview can help others who might be going through the same things that she was and she still is. Thank you. Janet, we know very little of each other. I was given your contact through somebody who follows us on Facebook, who I also don't know,
Okay.
and I sent you a message, and you responded right away,
Right.
and I appreciate that.
Right.
So we're here to talk about fallen officer Mario Navidad. Um, so tell us your involvement with him.
Okay. Okay. So back in 1996, Mario and I were working the same platoon. I do believe it was platoon 3, if I'm thinking right, which starts at 1500 hours, so the 12-hour shift. And I do believe we worked Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. So we were due to have Christmas off for that year. I think we were supposed to work Christmas Eve, but then we would have Christmas Day off. And so it was, the regular thing. You meet in roll call. Everybody kind of sits in their assigned spots, or not assigned, but the spot they're comfortable with. And I do believe Mario had about 2.5 years on, I think, and he was working with Ralph Mendoza. And so, we had the regular roll call. Sergeant Gary Frito was our sergeant for that platoon. So he called roll, and we did that whole thing, and the typical things that you do in roll call. So we come out of roll call, and you go to the kit room, you start checking out, your equipment and things like that, and you talk to one another. Oh, I was listening. I'm like, what is that?
Horrible timing. I guess they're working on some stuff.
Okay. And so, you check out your equipment and everything. So, you know how when you're, at the kit room and we're all laughing, and it's the holiday season, and that just put more icing on the day, it's holiday season. So I remember seeing Mario, and we said a few words, we said a few funny words to each other, whatever, as we checked out our equipment, and then we went to our cars with our partners, right? Went to our cars, did our vehicle checks, did the whole thing. So we as changing of watch and our platoon coming down, we go out. And I remember I was passenger that day, so my partner was driving. And I remember us going kind of towards the Beverly Center. Even though I don't think that was our area, but we were going towards that way for some reason. And so that's about 20 minutes after we got into the car and started to get out. And then Officer Needs Help call comes out. And I'm thinking, okay. Because sometime, you hit the button, sometime,
Accidentally.
Yeah, accidentally. So you kind of go, wait a minute. Okay, because you kind of wait for them to say, okay, code 4 or whatever. Okay, you try to, because that really rouses the adrenaline when you hear that. But I heard Ralph Mendoza come on again and said, "Officer needs help, shots fired," and something about his partner. And I was like, okay, so that's when the adrenaline. I had something in my hand. Okay, I got to breathe, because this is where it gets really hard for me. I had something. I looked at my partner, and he's a driver. He's a good driver. He was drove, what do you call it, go-karts and stuff. He's just a good driver. So I remember looking at him, and he turns the car around, and we start going. We get the location, and I'm like, okay. So then we get to the alley at Fairfax and Whitworth. And all I can remember right then and there is when we're coming down the alley, is Ralph standing there, Ralph Mendoza. I see the car, I see Ralph in front of the car, and I see a body on the ground. Ralph is drawn down on the body that's on the ground, and I get out of the car. You know how the car is still going, and I open the door before it stopped, and Ralph looks at me and he goes, he's immediate said, immediate, okay, let me breathe. Okay. He says, "Where's Mario?" And I said, "I don't know. I, I remember saying it low because I'm still moving. Because, anytime you get to a scene, you got to figure out if it's still hot. I see this body on the ground. I see a gun on the ground. I see Ralph is looking at me. My partner's moving out of the car. He's wondering, okay, Mario, you see the car. So I'm like, okay, is it still hot? Is somebody gonna come off the roof on me? So you have to keep all those things in mind. Plus, you realize there's a partner missing. So at that time, life or like everything kind of slows down on you, like almost matrix like. It just you because your body is starting to respond to the trauma that's happening now, and you don't want to shut down. Because I remember wanting to, like, you have to fight your fight or flight at that time, because your body is going, oh, do I fight, do I fly, do I stand, do I freeze, and so you can't do any of those. You have to be able to continue to do your job. So I remember going to the car. My partner goes up to Ralph, and I go to the car, and I see Mario, and he's slumped over like this. And I'm like, okay, but there's no, like, I didn't see, you think blood and things all happening, but he was just kind of like this. And, oh, did you want to ask me something?
No.
Oh, and I see his arm like this, and I'm just like, okay. And I didn't realize that was Mario's gun on the ground that I was seeing. I didn't realize, I don't think, the reason I thought it was the body that was on the ground, I thought it was his, but it was actually Mario's. And like I said, like everything was, I could hear my partner and Ralph saying something and moving, and you hearing that in one ear, and you're telling yourself something in the other ear, and I was like, okay, the tears started rolling, because now I see that he's hurt, but I don't know how, because I don't see any obvious sign of, like, like just blood or something coming from somewhere to tell me where he's hurt, but obviously he's out. Okay, by the look, he's unconscious, in other words. Now I'm trying to figure out where he's breathing, where he's hurt. So I holler to my partner, I'm like, I don't see, and do I move him? Is his neck? I don't know. So, my partner runs over, and I said, oh, well, I have some scissors. Let's cut his shirt off. Maybe we can see if there's something under there. So my partner's but my scissors, I have the kind that the RAs use. So, but those were in the car. So my partner says, well, I got a knife, he has the police knife. So he starts to cut and stuff, and then I start moving, and then I see a drop, like, how the vest is here, and then you have the back part of the vest, and then there's the Velcro. I don't know if it's still like that, but there's this little open space there. So I see this pin drop of blood right there. It's like a pin drop. So I said, okay, but how could that, what is that? I mean, so, but obviously he's still out. So then I still didn't put it together how it happened at that moment, but I just knew that he's not. So I kind of, Mario, and I'm touching. So then I feel for pulse. I started to aid him now. I'm starting to, okay, I start to feel for pulse. I didn't feel one. He wasn't breathing. So now I'm really I don't want to shut down at this point, because I wanted to cry, and I was like, he's not breathing. Okay, so what am I going to do here? We need to get RA rolling. We need to start communicating something. We got to do stuff. So partner was doing things. So he had to be the one that called, for RA, and then, and then other officers, of course, are rolling at this time. They're coming, so people are starting to show up, and the RA was called and things like that. In the meantime, I'm over Mario and I'm talking. I'm like, Mario, please, what is it? Tell me, what is it? And so I just looked at his eyes, and I remember seeing the life gone at that point. And I wanted to stay positive and say, oh no, no, we're gonna. But I've seen that look before with my own mother, so I knew the life was going out of him. It was going or gone, but I wanted to still try to give that last bit. So I started to try to breathe for him. I started to, do things, and then I told my partner, and I remember talking, because now the sergeant is here. He was the next to come before the troop, Gary. I said, let's don't leave him here. Please, can we just, the RA's taking too long. We're near Cedars. So Mario's still in the car. Ralph is out there drawn down on the body. We get in the car, me, my partner, and Sergeant Frito. Sergeant Frito's driving. I'm holding Mario. My partner's broadcasting. I remember there was a unit on the side clearing, and this and that and the other, and I'm trying to, oh, Mario, please, But before the RA came, and I mean, before we got in the car, and like I said, this is happening in seconds, and before, we started moving, I kissed Mario on the forehead, and I said, good night, brother, because I, it just, I knew that it was fatal. Whatever it was fatal. I could see it and I could feel it. And, and I said, but if the universe allows, please, I don't want it to be that way, but I wanted, if that was the way it was going to be, I just wanted to give him that send off. And, I just kissed him on the forehead. We hop in the car, we go, and, and then traffic, you're talking that area, holiday, 4:30 in the afternoon, holiday traffic. So with all that twisting and turning, we pull up. The doctors and the trauma team is out there to help, take us. They take us in, take him. Well, they pull him out and put him on the gurney, and they start pulling, and whatever they do, their job. And they roll him in. I do believe they cracked his chest. And I remember I wanted to look, and my partner kept pulling me because he knew. He was like, oh, just come over here. I want to see. Just come over here, And so, we are all in the emergency room. And then our officers started coming from Rampart in different divisions. They started coming, and I remember one female officer. I remember her. Because she was just crying. She was pacing because they're working on them, and I was standing back some from it because I kind of wanted to see, but didn't, but did. And she was up there. She was just pacing, and she was crying. And then I saw a male officer. I wanted to say this. It is not funny, but it's just something I observed. I remember, like, male officers, when they concerned, they have a blank look on their face. And I don't know if it's hiding, if it's a thing where they're trying to hold back the emotion and hide it, or what is it. And I saw a couple of them, and they were just stone face. Just, you just, it was just stone, And so everybody was just kind of, we're just kind of hoping for the best. And then, the sergeant, the sergeants from the station came in, the captains, and people started showing up. And I remember them after, they did the best they could, and they worked on him, and then they pulled. I remember me, and it was a few other people, and they pulled him, and they said they couldn't save him. And oh God, I'm sorry. It's okay. They couldn't save him. They couldn't save him. And at that time, I felt guilty. That was where the guilt set in. Right then and there, I felt guilty because now I'm thinking, did I do the right thing? Should we have waited for the RA? Did I just felt guilty. It's a deep, I don't know if it's a survivor's guilt or guilty that I didn't do enough, or did I touch him wrong or something, when I was trying to help him and made it worse. And those types of things started going in my mind at the time. But the doctor said that, you know, his best chance of survival was us bringing him to the ER. But my whole thing for the ER was I didn't want Mario to die out there on that street next to that, near that body. I did not want that. I wanted him away from that scene, away from it. So that was just something, that I was thinking, to have some sort of dignity and pride. I didn't want that. And but then also was thinking, trying to get him there to save his life. It was a lot of things that start going through your mind at the time, because like I said, everything is in slow mo. For me, everything was in slow motion, and you're trying to do your job tactically, and you're trying to make the best decisions that you can make. And I looked at him and I said, this he's 26 years old. We were about the same age. I think I was a couple of years older than him, but basically in the same age group. And he had a 4-year-old child, a boy that looked just like him. I thought his name was Mario. I think he's a junior. And then he had a 9-month-old at the time, girl, and a wife. They lived in Chino. And Chino Hills, or one of those. And so, so we're at the hospital, we get the word, and we're just all devastated, just like that. And what it was a beer run at the 7-Eleven right there at Fairfax and Whitworth. And the owner had flagged the car down. He said the guy took some beer. Okay. So the guy ran in, I guess went in, walked out, and ran out, walked out, whatever, with the beer and went down the alley. Mario and Ralph happened to be, I guess, a car that passed at that moment. So he flagged him down and said, hey, he took my beer. So they go down the alley. They go down the alley and they see him walking. And he has the beer and they see him walking. If I'm remembering correctly, he was alone. But so he's walking. So they're approaching and the guy turns back on him. And doubles back on them, and they're still in the car. I guess Ralph must have gotten out. I'm trying to remember this, so don't, you know, it's not. I mean, I'm trying to remember all the details. But so the guy comes back towards the car, and he must, the way I can just see it, that he must have come somewhat to the side of Mario's side of the car, and Mario extends his arm out to shoot because he sees a gun, and that's when he took it right in between that, right there. He just got a shot off, and that's why. So his arm was extended, and that's how it was open, and that's why he dropped the gun. His arm was outside the window. That's where the gun was on the ground. That's how I'm kind of remembering that. And Mario, I mean, I'm sorry, and then Ralph, of course, is out of the car, and now, uh, you know, drawn down and kills him. The suspect shoots him and kills him. And he was a gang member from, what was it called? I think Canales. I don't know, but it was a gang. It was gang related, and so that's kind of how it went down. So then going back, so we get to the station, and of course you're gonna have to have that whole walkthrough thing of the shooting. When the shooting team comes out, you're gonna have to give your part of what happened, and your part in everything. And so we get back to the station, and I remember Ralph being in the captain's office. He still didn't know if Mario made it or not. He didn't know, and I remember him looking, and I remember kind of sitting back because they wanted, the captain to tell him or whatever. And I just remember him breaking down. I could hear inside the office, and he breaking down. That his partner didn't make it. It's like here today, because and gone tomorrow, because they work together. Like I said, you had the same partner, you work with the same people, and we were on the same platoon. And I want to say Ralph had a little bit more time on than Mario, just a little bit, but they were friends from what I remember. That's why they wanted to work together. And so he finds out, and I just remember at that time just being numb. And I remember starting to lose my appetite, because that when I respond to trauma, any type of trauma, especially when it deals with death. And the reason I say that is because I'm remembering when my mother died, I kind of responded the same way. Is I start to lose my appetite, and in the beginning. And so I remember that feeling. And so we go out, we have to give our account of what happened. And you go home, and then I think they give you the next day off, and then they want everyone to talk to, was it therapist or BSS or something, in a group. They had us talk in a group, right? And I remember looking at everybody in the group, and I think everybody was really shy about speaking in when there's a therapist involved. And the reason I say that is because, I know with our job, with that type of job and the culture, you don't, people are kind of afraid to talk to a therapist, to say anything as to how they're feeling. And so I just remember we had a group session for, I don't know, for an hour. And I remember one of the officers saying he remembered my face. I guess the therapist must have asked, what stood out in your mind? And so he was asking that officer, and he said, I remember Janet's face, because I had tears. I was trying to hold Mario, as we were going, because he was one of the ones clearing on the side, so he could see me right there, and I could see him. I remember looking at him, he was looking at me, and he remembered my face. But so we had our group session, but honestly, that's really not enough, because with trauma, it's that's what it is. And trauma is not, when you start to have reactions to trauma, it's not what's wrong with you, it's what happened to you, what you saw. It's what happened to you. And so it's, you're not mentally ill. We're human beings, and our bodies respond to trauma, physically, emotionally, all of that. It responds to it. Otherwise, we'd be robots. We're not robots. And if you don't deal with those things, they can become, really chronic, And so with me, I remember how I dealt, because I'm not a smoker. I'm not a drinker. So for me, in the beginning, it I didn't have an appetite, so I lost like 30 pounds, which that's not good, because obviously, there's something keeping me from eating, you know what I'm saying? And at that time, my son was like 9 years old, and so I dealt with him. I remember dealing, he started crying and asked me why I couldn't have been a teacher, because he was afraid, what happened. He was old enough to understand what happened. And but anyway, so I started losing weight. I remember my uniform being really big out there, because I was still on patrol. I was still on patrol, and it was drooping, and I was like,
30 pounds. You'll see that.
Yeah,
Uniform.
yeah. Uniform is either way. If you gain weight, it talks to you.
My uniform right now is letting me know I gained some weight.
Yeah, that's if you want to know if you gain weight, put the uniform on, because it'll tell you.
Yes, ma'am.
Real quick that you have one too many cookies or something, whatever it is you like eating. So, I remember starting to lose weight, and then after a while, after it switches or something switches, then I start to gain the weight back, and sometimes I would go over the weight. So I started to those types of things, and then I started to think, okay, um, you know, you have to understand whether you need to talk to someone, or do you need to have some counseling sessions about what has happened. Because I started to, like I said, I had guilty feelings of not being able to save him. I had feelings of just survivor's guilt, and worrying if I had done something to him to make it worse. And then, as time goes on, if you don't if you don't deal with those things, they morph into other things. And I remember having, like, sometime I would have nightmares about him, or like dreams. They're nightmares to me, because I would dream about him, and Mario would be in roll call, and I'd be talking to him, and then we'd be getting ready to go out after roll call, and I go, "Hey, Mario," and I'd say something to him, and he says, "But I gotta go." I don't know, "But where are you going?" "Well, I gotta go." So every time I would dream about him, before I would wake up, he'd have to go. So, and I just, that area over there, I've recently visited. I went over there to that alley to see if I could actually do that. And I walked down that alley. It freaked me out a little bit at first, and I walked down and I saw his name, where the city has put his name up there. And I was glad to see that. But, going back to further in, that Christmas day, the captain asked if I and my partner would play Santa Claus to his children. Also on Christmas, so we went to Hollywood Studios, and I got a Miss Santa Claus suit. My partner got a Santa Claus suit, and we played Santa to his kids on that day. Some other children were there too, and I remember dancing around and passing out candy canes. And he had a book, and he read stories, and I was, like miming to the story, and that kind of thing. And that was hard for me to do. But what was really hard for me to do was to say goodbye to him at that funeral. And I did not want to go, because how I grieve, I normally want to stay away from the funeral, the whole thing. That's just me. But I remember someone saying, you were, one of the last people to see him, to touch him. You should go, and his wife wants you to go, because you were the last. So I felt a little pressure. So I remember being in the church in the funeral, and I'm gonna tell you, an officer's funeral is none like no other. Cause when they start that whole ceremony, and they start with the flying over and the missing boot or whatever that, and the shooting and the precise, I don't know, the whole precision of that really got me. The shooting, and you can hear him giving the commands, and they fire, and I was just like, kind of shaking, and I was like, oh, can we just get through this? And so the church was packed, and it was. I mean, it's a beautiful send off if you want to look at it that way. And fortunately, that's part of the job, and it can happen, and it did happen. And also another thought that came to my mind is that could have been me. Not only other things, but that could have been me. That was very close, So you deal with that part of it as well, is that it could have been you, didn't have to be him. So those types of things. So as time went, I remember being off throughout until the new year, and it sounds like I'm forgetting something, but yeah, I remember they put us on administrative days, um, and then it was back to work. And I remember the first day being out on patrol, I was a little nervous. It was just different, because trauma like that changes to me the color of life a little bit. Um, because life gets divided in before and after when you have a trauma like that. So, it was, I remember, being out there, and I remember somebody kind of closed their car door, and I jumped. I was like, okay, well, I'm hyper vigilant here, and that's another thing. We had to deal with hypervigilance and those type of things that come with post-traumatic stress disorder, because that's one of the things that gets keyed up when you have something like that, is post-traumatic stress disorder. And I remember being hypervigilant, a little bit. I just remember, just things that didn't normally make me jump would make me jump. I remember, like, this was early on, like going to my son's bedroom. He wouldn't even have to be in there, and I would just stand there, like, okay. I don't know why I would do it. I just did it. And then also, like I said, the little nightmares that would come. And then for me, I was not, people recognize when people drink or smoke too much or something. Those are kind of, because you can go to alcohol, treatment for alcohol, for drugs. But for me, it wasn't that. For me, it was chocolate, cookies,
Huh.
chips. People people don't pay attention to that though. Okay, so but my body did. So what I'm saying. So I started to those things. I started to eat too many of those things. The chips, the cookies, and the little things, comfort foods like that. Not so much real food, but that kind of food. And I had a collection of scented candles and body lotion. And that may not seem like a really big deal, but when you have too much of it and you know what I'm saying, it is a big deal, because it manifests itself differently in different people. Some, like I say, smoke, some drink too much, or you can have a combination of things that you're doing. Maybe you're spending too much. Whatever. It can be a lot of different things. But for me, that's how it showed up, as far as buying lotion and stuff like that. I remember looking up one day, and I had a drawer, especially for that chocolate. And I looked in there, I was like, you know what? Hershey's, if I owned stock in this right now, I'd be a billionaire, because it was a lot. And I didn't realize I had so much in there. I was like, oh my God, how did I would just get it. Sometimes I wouldn't even really eat it, but I would just get it. So, these are things, you have to kind of, watch and see if you're doing something excessively to kind of soothe the pain, because that's kind of what you're doing when you're, doing these things, whether you're drinking, smoking, or shopping, or whatever it is you're doing. You're trying to soothe whatever it is it's really not what you're eating, it's what's eating you, and what's, you're trying to soothe that. So, those are the types of things that, I was doing. Depression, would come in, anxiety, those things would come in and out. Um, and it's the level, and it's some of that, like I said, it's normal for these things to happen. It's when it gets in the way of your life is when you start to need help. When it starts to sit in the forefront of your life and it starts to guide you, that's when you really need help. But you have to know that you need it, and you have to accept that you need it, and that kind of thing. But then with, like I said, with the type of job, whether it be, anything to me that's has some sort of military uh, background in it, or flavor to it, then it's really really going to be hard, because I know officers don't like to touch on those feelings. And then with it, and then also, to get a therapist, you need one that's very very versed in trauma, and you need one, to me, that can break down the veneer in that wall that an officer holds. And some of that wall is needed, because you get to crime scenes every day, and homicide scenes. You can't, break down and do all these things. You have to work. You have to see this stuff every day. So you got to put it somewhere. At the end, you got to put it somewhere. So that's why sometimes I think, when we would go to homicide scenes, and you'd be waiting for detectives, you have it all taped off, whatever, and you've done your whatever it is, and you're waiting for the homicide detectives, and you'll see officers laughing, and talking at the scene. But I think it's just a way of coping. It's just a way of coping from seeing so much of that. Of death and people shot or stabbed or whatever has happened. So, but as officers, I think, there's a lot of weight carried there, and you don't want to let that down and get jacketed. And I do get that. I understand that totally. Um, but then, if on the other hand, if you don't, get the help that you need, it's going to filter through your life, and it's gonna mess your life up. And you're not going to live the quality of life that you could have if you don't get a hold of it. And post traumatic stress is real, and it can really alter your life. You know, so I didn't know if you had.
Wow. Thank you for sharing all that. You pretty much touched on all these questions I wrote down just on your own. Have you spoken about the actual incident before?
Before now.
Yeah.
No, no, only to myself. Sometime I'll, around Christmas time, I feel it. I still have the DFAR,
Wow, really?
where I had written the last four of the incident. I'm sure you guys don't do that now. I'm sure it doesn't look like that now, but yeah, the DFAR, and it just has my partner's name, my name, and it has the last four and the date and the time, that kind of thing. But no, as far as actually really talking about it, I did with counseling. I did with in that sort of way. But I mean, as far as like in this type of setting, no, um, I haven't. But he still crosses my mind,
Of course.
because he would be how old would he? He's about 26 then, you know. And I just, and Ralph crosses my mind too. I think he's still on the job as far as I know. Um, but I just, then I also have a picture of me and my partner and Mario's son sitting on the lap, and the little girl in the Christmas, you know, our Christmas outfit that we had, costumes we had for, his children. And I remember his wife asking me, "What did he say? What was the last thing he said?" And I said, he didn't say anything. I said the last words he probably would have said would have been to Ralph, in the car, because when I got there, he didn't say anything else. And she wanted to know what he looked like, and I'm sitting there I'm like, okay, so if so I kind of explained to her what he looked like, and she's breaking down. She wanted to know, and I get it. You want to know what happened. I want to know what happened to my husband. I get it, you know, and I want to know what he looked like, and and everything. And so, I remember telling her, and I remember staying that the next night we stayed the night over there to help, because the baby was sick at the time, had a cold or something. So the baby was crying and stuff. So I was trying to, remember, because my son was 9 at the time, and you know, okay.
So you're trying to remember how to
Yeah,
carry a baby.
yeah, how to care for
Right,
a
right.
small baby, and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I was just like,
Have
yeah,
you did you do any therapy outside of what your department offered?
yes.
You did.
Hmm.
That's good.
Yeah, I did. Because they have BSS, but I'm gonna be honest here with that. I wasn't comfortable with that because it was a department thing, and I don't know. I just rather not. And at that time, so you can use your own. You have insurance, right?
Right.
So you can uh, you can, get your own therapist and or whatever you believe in. If you're religious and you want to do that, I say don't do that only. I think you need someone that's trained in the field of trauma. But if and then if you have your church and you want to go and talk, whatever your religion is, whatever you prefer in that, then you can do that. But sometimes it's just talking to someone that understands. It could be just a friend that's just listening. They may not understand all the ins and elements, but just to listen to. You might break down, and there were many times I would break down. There were not too long ago, I was going to the Grove. Well, that's going past that
Yeah.
area, and it didn't hit me right in the area. It was when I was at the Grove in the store. And this was like during the holidays. So, no, I'm in that Nordstrom's up there. And for some reason, he crossed my mind in there. And I'm trying to hold back the tears. And I'm trying to go over there because I don't want this lady to think I'm nuts. What's wrong. And so I was walking around trying to, we have the masks. That kind of helps. And I'm trying to do this.
Oh, man.
Trying to do this, and nose is running, and I was just like, okay, let me find a bathroom or something so I can get myself together.
Do you still currently do therapy?
This isn't the last time I did therapy.
Or do you at least, like, if you feel you need it, you could reach out to?
Yeah, because in 2017 my son died.
Oh, wow, I'm sorry.
So when you have, and the department came to, because his father is still on the job. So they came out and, and that brings a lot of things back, because my son died suddenly. So it's just, he didn't wake up. So anytime when you have a trauma and then you have another one, it kind of brings forward the ones that are passed in your life. So if you have a trauma in 2017 and you've had trauma previously in your life, then it can bring it to the forefront again.
Right.
So now I had my son, and then Mario starts creeping up, and my son died right at the holidays. So he died on December 11th, 2017, and he was buried December 21st. Mario died December 22nd. So it was all, so I've had some more trauma in my life, because to bury your child is not, it's unnatural to me, but, it happens. So, so, if I feel I need it, I'm not, I won't not get it. I don't feel that I, shouldn't get it or anything like that, because I will say this with trauma or with post-traumatic, either you can be the type of person that the trauma affects where you turn inward or you lash outward. And usually if you lash outward, usually that affects your relationships, sometime violence, domestic violence, or any other. It don't even have to be domestic violence. It could just be outbursts and all these different things that can happen. Or you can be the type, or you can have a little of both, or you can turn inward and, where you don't take care of yourself, or things that start happening to you, or everything is happening to you. You're doing things to yourself, or neglect, or whatever it is that it could be. And isolating, I did that. I'm not going to lie. I did that. I isolated because with post-traumatic, it starts to take its toll. And then I started to feel kind of like, I don't know, ugly or something, or just that my whole aura just seemed to change, or I felt, and I just isolated. And, so that can happen too.
Do you have a good support system now?
Somewhat.
If you wanted it.
Yeah,
It. Good.
But, but that's something that I had to, grow in. When I say isolate, it doesn't necessarily mean you're like staying in the house in the corner. Because it doesn't, you can isolate yourself and still be out. Okay, withdrawn, I guess, could be part of it. You can still be out, but still have some, isolation going on, or things like that, or sometime like
like disconnection.
Yeah. basically, type of thing. Or sometime like people would, like if you probably had asked me to do this interview 4 years ago, I might have said yeah and then didn't come.
Yeah.
Type of thing. It would have been one of those things. Because part of me wants to do it, but then there's that other part that would pull me back. And so there's this going on. So I would go, yeah, okay. And then just, I don't think I want to do it.
Right.
Right. Type of thing. And when I got up this morning, when I got up and I was like, I didn't feel like that. I just had to say, okay, you're going to get through this, type of thing. But I didn't feel like I wasn't going to come. So there's some healing that has gone on since that, type of thing. I mean, I'm much better when it comes to those sorts of things because I've dealt with a lot, and that's why I feel like I'm able to do the interview now. That doesn't mean I don't have the feelings, that I don't cry, or that he doesn't cross, my mind, or the scene doesn't cross my mind, because there was a thing on TikTok, and it was people do their little short videos on TikTok, and it was a Christmas one, and it was a thing where the lady, she threw, this is totally benign too, and my mind made it something different though, and she threw a ball, like a tub, what do you call those fizzy things you put in the tub, and she threw it, and it said fire in the hole, and it sounded like gunfire, like war, and to me it sounded like war. And I just like, I don't like that one. I don't like that video. And I kind of just went on because it took away the whole Christmas thing. I just didn't like the sound of it because it sounded like war. And basically, it was war. I mean, even though it's not in that, war like we all think, type of thing. But, going to a scene like that where, somebody's down and out and shots been fired and this and that, it's war.
Right.
And so
I think that war continues in your personal life years after.
Yeah, it can.
Yeah.
It really, really can. I mean, because post-traumatic doesn't, I know, a lot with people think of it as, they think of, officers are coming home from the war, which is very true. I mean, I think they called it shell-shocked at one point.
Before they labeled it PTSD.
Right, before they labeled it PTSD. And, and that's very real, don't get me wrong. But post-traumatic can set in from anything that's traumatizing to you. It could be a car accident. It could be a terminal, illness diagnosis. It could be
just getting robbed.
Yeah.
And it's very subjective, too. Like, people will respond to, like, I guess you could say, lower levels of trauma, but they'll respond a lot more than somebody else who gets something a lot more serious, I guess. So that's why I think it's very hard to really categorize, because it's so subjective for every individual and how they deal with it after.
That's true. And I always say, you really don't know how you're going to respond to something and how it's going to affect you unless, I don't want to say until it happens, because I hope it never does.
Right.
But if it happens to you, you don't know what it's going to do. You really don't know how it's going to affect you. You don't know how you're going to respond. You get a call or something like that. You don't know how you may have in your mind how you think you're going to respond. Well, I would have done this, or I would have done that. Well, okay, that's what you think you'll do. But when the actual things start happening and your body starts to respond, because you don't have the responding things happening to you. So you don't know until it starts happening to you. And then you don't know how it's going to happen to you afterwards. And so that's why I say it's trauma affects people differently. And people, their whole aura responds to it differently. Because I read a book, the officer, I forget it, Dorelli, I forget his name. Oh my gosh, I read his book. He was one of the officers, in the North Hollywood shootout.
Do you remember the name of the book?
Oh gosh, you know what? I can.
It's all right. We can look it up later.
Yeah, okay.
I'll just put my notes.
Put it down there because I have it on my thing because I read it. And I wanted to read it because it was, it was an officer and he was involved in something. And he talked about the shooting and his life afterwards, how it affected him. but he wrote a book about his experience at the North Hollywood shooting. And then I looked at the footage of it, and I go, there he is right there. I looked at that whole thing. This was recent that I did this, and I started crying looking at the whole thing, at him, because I'm reading his book, and I'm listening, reading it, what happened to him and things like that. And he didn't get shot. I don't think nobody got killed.
No, but I think officers did get shot.
They got shot, but nobody got killed.
Correct.
But, other than the
suspects.
The suspect they got. But yeah, he was the one who jumped over that fire hydrant. I remember, because he was running and he was trying to get out, and he was running over to another part. And he jumped over.
What
the fire
year was
hydrant.
that? I was in high school.
Yeah, you had to be. That was in. That was 94.
Because I went to Birmingham in Van Nuys.
Oh, okay.
So we all locked down. I remember.
Oh yeah. It was in the early 90s. I want to say 94 for some reason, but then I'm thinking, is that the earthquake in 94? But anyway,
that was Northridge was 94.
Yeah, okay, yeah. And that's something else too. But yeah, I read his book, and he talked about his life before, how he was initially going to be a firefighter, things like that, and then how he ended up getting on the job. And then his ranks, going through the academy, and all the different divisions he worked, and then North Hollywood, and then the things that happened to him on the job afterwards. He had some trouble with some other officers, and after the shooting, and just stuff. I was like, stuff you just wouldn't know, was happening, and he went on to I think he promoted and made sergeant, and and then his life, how it was affecting him at home, the therapy thing, how he didn't want to go, and just it was a really good read, because it really took you all the way through the traumatic, all of that. It took you all the way through from the beginning of his life through that.
You ever think about writing a book?
Yes, I am currently writing a book. My life, is something that is almost a thriller, But yes, and and that, and LAPD would be a part of it,
Of course.
And
please let me know when that's coming out.
Yeah, that's all the way through my life, as because before, people never thought that I would be a police officer. Okay, I was a dancer. I was a dancer, very artsy type person, animal loving type. Not to say that police officers can't be animal loving, but I was
definitely not the prototype. Even now, I'll tell you myself.
Yeah, and I remember writing. They used to tease me. They would tease me because when I would go and write a ticket, and then my training officer would go, and this is McKinney, that was my life. This is McKinney, and she'd be writing, and she'd go up to the car and on her tiptoes, because that was the way I walked, and that was how I got over the wall in the academy. How, like, you jump the 6-foot wall, and a lot of times people would use their upper body. They would jump and use not me. I would go, I would run, and I would jump and lift my whole leg and lock my heel on that wall. So I was almost in a full split, and I would pull the rest of my body up with my leg and roll over. And I remember the instructor's like, well, she got over it. I mean, whatever.
Did you dance over it? Is that what
it
you
was
pretty
one
much
of those
did?
things. I leaped, basically, and I danced, and I used, that was because that's what I did for so many years. Yeah. So even people like that knew me, before the job, they were like, oh my God, she's a police. That's okay. That is weird. And it carried on. We would, at Wilshire, I don't know if you remember, Wilshire, we used to have talent shows during the Christmas holiday.
No, I mean, I was an explorer there in the 90s. Okay. But yeah.
So we used to have, because I did 7 years at Wilshire, and we used to have Christmas holiday parties. Is that the thing? Because back then we could call them Christmas. Now you have to say holiday parties.
Correct.
So we would have talent shows in our holiday parties, and that was good because you would see officers in another light. You would see what other talents that they have. Mm-hmm. You see them out of that uniform. You see what really makes them up. Right? People played the piano. Some people sang. One guy played the drums, and one did a Elvis impersonating, and I danced.
So
And
let me stop you. The Elvis one, was that Officer Villanueva? Okay,
yeah, it was
I
him.
remember him. Okay, go on.
Yep, that was him. I thought it was pretty good. I was like, he did that, and I think the captain even did something.
Nice.
Uh,
So you did a dance.
Yeah, and I danced. I did a modern dance because I remember people going,
Wow.
yeah, okay, you in the wrong job. And then I remember, and officers can be a tough crowd.
Yep.
And I remember my partner was in the crowd, and he was making me laugh up there, and he kept saying, "She didn't come here to play. Look at her. She didn't come here to play." Like, stop, because I can hear him over the music, But it was fun. It was a fun time, and that was a way to ease a lot of the tension. And because I remember at that time we were going through arrest and control school at that time, and I did it around right before the party. And I hope I can say this, but I remember a motor officer. We're doing arrest and control, and that's you're intertwined a lot. Yeah, and you're on top of one another. And oh my gosh, I remember a motor officer. I'm laughing because I laughed so hard. And he said, "Ooh, the last time I was in this position, I got married." I'm like, okay.
Oh, right.
I laughed. It was just fun. It was just funny to me. Those are just memories that are fun.
Yeah,
me,
100%.
But I just can remember him, trying to do doing the moves and leg being over here, your arm up here, whatever we were doing. But yeah.
Last time I did that training, I was sore for like 3 days.
Oh, I know. But I'm pretty limber, so but still I still got sore. But
yeah,
I remember I had a female partner she wasn't my partner, but partnered up at one of the other times. And she was trying to do something. I remember she had my leg some funny way, and she couldn't understand why my leg was continuing to go. I'm like, girl, you don't understand the flexibility here. You don't understand the flexibility here. So you keep pushing, it's going to keep going.
Yeah.
And she was just like, okay, but it was just fun times.
How long did you stay on the job for?
For 18 years.
You did 18.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So could you retire and collect a pension at that time with 18?
No, because I didn't have the age. I didn't have the age. At the time. Yeah, so not at that age.
Did you find another career path, or?
Yeah, yes and no.
Why'd you leave?
Actually, I left. I don't know if I just. I'm trying to. I don't know how much of this. I want to say personal reasons, but
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good enough. No worries. No worries.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have to talk about anything you don't want to talk about. So.
It was right around the time. Let's just say this was right around the time Rampart thing.
The thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Okay. Do you keep in touch with Mario's family?
Well, I did for a while, but then then her numbers changed or something, and I never were able to.
Yeah.
I heard she remarried. I think.
Okay.
But no, after a while, I did for a while though.
Yeah. Well, everybody kind of deals with it differently, especially through the years. So,
right.
You can't really. I can't really. I don't see any fault in anybody really kind of backing off. Because I'm in a place where I kind of try to offer my help to remember, but maybe some people don't want to bring back that trauma.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Right.
So you can't fault. And that's why when I reached out to you, I'm like, I said, you don't have to say, don't feel bad for saying no.
Mm-hmm.
Very careful about it.
Yeah, some people, it depends on, sometimes it depends on the time between.
Yeah.
Because you're talking, 25 years or something?
This year it'll be 25 years.
Yeah, it's 25 years. Even though to me it feels like yesterday still. It still brings up feelings. I don't know if that'll ever go away.
Yeah.
And, it just, you learn to deal with it and understand that you are human and that, it's okay to feel it. That's the thing. You got to feel it to heal it. You got to feel it. And it just, if you keep swallowing and keep putting it in, it's going to come out. Oh,
Yeah.
you can best believe it's going to come out.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't feel bad crying if I have to cry or that sort of thing, because sometimes that is a release that is needed, because like I said, we are all human beings and we do have emotions, whether you want to let them roll or not, they're there. And so if like I said, if you stuff them down inside, because then, some, post-traumatic stress can get to the point of a person being suicidal. And, and that's, one of the things that, we deal with on the job. It's suicides,
Oh, a lot for sure.
type of thing. And
How
because with the post-traumatic, you can feel alone, very alone.
how do you think police departments across the country
Hmm.
could improve in helping a partner officer or survivor, not just immediately after an incident, but years later?
Um, they need. I feel like it needs to be revisited as time goes. And I'm not saying, I mean, at some point in time, you need to feel like someone cares. I think, in a sense, to check on you to see how you're dealing with, and you might be okay. I mean, type of thing. I just think there needs to be some,
Maybe a program
yeah,
to
program
check
to
on the
kind
officers
of,
every so often.
yeah,
And
to check on them, because I can say with my experience, nobody checked on me. Even with me losing weight visibly afterwards, nobody, no, there was no, you kind of left to fend for yourself. And if you don't know how, or not willing, or some combination of both, that can be trouble. That can be trouble. And then you might start getting in trouble on the job, or things might start happening. Then now, if the captain orders you to BSS, because of whatever. But also, I want to say what can happen when people feel like, I think what officers feel like, or just people in general, when someone has post traumatic or any type of uh, thing that needs attention, um, as far as mentally or that type of thing, people get jacketed. Because if you say, you go to therapy for your post traumatic, and then you make a mistake on the job, and then they go, okay, see, she went over to counseling. See, she's been in counseling, and she got post traumatic. Maybe that's why she made the mistake. When it's just a mistake that we could make.
yeah, that stigma is strong.
It's really
I
strong.
think we've we've came a long way
Mm-hmm.
with providing resources,
Mm-hmm.
but the culture is still
It's,
it,
yeah,
it's hard to get through that.
yeah. It's hard to. It really is hard to peel back those layers, and that's what makes officers, I do believe, not just want to stay away from,
Admitting they need help.
yeah, admitting that they need help. Because if someone,
Yeah.
even if they go on a private thing, go to their own insurance, I just think that, people, and that's another thing, people always say, being strong. What is being strong? I'm just talking about society. You need to be strong and be strong. And actually, being strong is to deal with your issues. To
Yeah.
just sit there, and have a stone face, and not do anything and pretend is not being strong. It's actually the other way to me. Because to be strong is to be okay. Say, okay, I need this, or okay, let me check into this. This is happening, type of thing. And it's okay to get help. That doesn't mean, because I think a lot of times people think when you go to a therapist or you go get help that you're crazy, that you this. Then, then officers as far as their gun issues. They don't want, oh, I don't want to go to the therapist because then they might, and so it tends to keep them from not getting help.
It doesn't tend to. It does.
It does. You're
but
right.
It's a hard. Like I thought about this a lot. How do we fix that when part of our survival is to remain stoic or emotionless? Because if you break down with all the sadness an officer sees every day on the streets, you're going to be a wreck. You have to you're the police. You have to maintain professional to handle business.
Right.
Just like when you were telling your story, you wanted to cry, but it sounds like your tactics were on point. You were like, is there another shooter?
Yeah. And, you have to, all those things.
Right. So that's a double-edged sword because if you're doing that for many years, you're always on the ready, which is just not this natural state that we should be in.
Right.
And in the long term, it'll affect you, right? But if you don't do that now, it could compromise your tactics, which could get you or your partner hurt.
Right.
And that personality is the same personality that stops us from asking for help or even realizing we need help. Does that make sense?
No, I get it. I get it.
Those are my observations, at least.
Yeah, I do get it. I understand that totally. And that is why, like I said, with the therapist, and that to me where the therapist has to meet somewhat. The therapist is going to have to understand the culture to be able to help the officer. Other than that, it's going to be really hard because the officer is not going to open up. Because I remember there was a mental health worker, or I don't know exactly her title, when Mario was killed at the ER. And she wanted to know, she was there in case she wanted to talk. And I remember her asking me, because she saw me, and she asked some other people, and everybody, oh no. And she asked me, did you want to talk? And I remember my partner standing there, and he was like, I was like, no. But I don't even know if I want to, at that point in time, talk. Just at that moment, I was still in shock at that point, trying to, because at that point, I think when she came up to me, we hadn't gotten word. I needed to know what was going on before any of that talking stuff started happening. And but I could definitely, that's just something, like I said, for later on when you go, or when you are having the help. But first of all, you got to get there to know you need the help or want to receive the help, because none of it works if you're not receiving it. If you go into a therapy session or that sort of thing, and you're not open to it, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. Because I remember one of the therapists, he's deceased now, and he said, it took me a couple of sessions to kind of knock away the wall that I had in the whole thing. Because I remember wanting to talk. But there was something else going, nope, I ain't talking to him. I just remember that. So it was, one of those things, and it's just one of those things that we really need to, really need to get in place. Because, like I said, it can bring an officer to suicide, and it's not, it's not what we want.
Right.
So, or just like I said, cause a lot of havoc, in your life.
Tell us about Mario's personality.
At work, he was. I remember him being kind of joking, like a joke, because I remember, like I said, when we were at the kit room, he had said a few things. I just remember laughing. I can't remember what he said, but I remember he was joking kind of person. And I also remember asking, because I remember teasing him, well, because I had more time on than he did, and how that's a big thing, back then you could have 10 seconds more and you were like, my serial number, because I'm 27422,
Okay.
And whatever his was at the time.
Didn't matter. Yours was lower.
Yeah.
More seniority.
He could have, yeah. So, and that's one thing about when you're in the department, whether you're on or off the department, they don't reissue serial numbers. So you're always.
What's your serial number?
I'm 27422. You're always 27422.
We are about 1,000 apart.
Yeah, because after 27, they skipped 28 and 29.
Okay.
For civilian, and they went to 30.
I think my training officer was a 27. Well, two of them were.
Who are they? Oh.
Barb Bermudez.
Okay, I know.
Yeah, they were all 27s.
Yeah.
Are you guys classmates?
That's what I was thinking. The name. That's what And then there's another. This was when I first went out. My probation was at Harbor, and when I went, got to Harbor, I was PM watch, and that was, of course, before the 312. And my training officer was 13157.
Holy moly!
I can remember that. That's kind of mine. I have remember because it was low. Because he had a lot of time on this. He was 13157, and I've seen him recently. Well, within the last. So
he was a cop like in the 60s or something
like that. Because he had time on. He was an old timer then. And that's where all the old timers were at Harbor.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's like that now. So they get in the roll call, and I'm in the front row, and they call out the names, and they go Smith, McKinney, and he looked. He goes, "Oh, I thought you were a male white. And I said, oh no, because it's Chris. There's a Chris McKinney that's 27322.
Okay.
And I'm McKinney 27422. So, he was looking for a different person. And he was in 190, I was in 290 class. So it was weird how that worked out. But anyway, so we go out and, do our thing.
Yeah.
We do our thing and,
How long did you do on patrol?
I did, of course, the year there at Harbor.
Yeah.
Then I wheeled to Wilshire. And then I did 7 years at Wilshire, but not all of it was patrol. I did patrol, 91, 92. Then 93, I started working crime analysis. And then 94, I was doing a relief for a person that worked the area office.
Okay.
And then they were on vacation. Something was going on. They were on vacation or whatever. Then I did that stint for a while. Then 95, I went back to patrol, or late 94, 95, because the 312 came.
Okay.
Went back to patrol. So went back to patrol for 95, 96, and 97. 98, I went to DHD. It was called DHD then. I don't think it's that anymore. I went down because I don't even think the 150.
I think it's RHD now.
Okay.
They keep changing.
Yeah, but back then it was DHD where I worked. It was called the AIU desk thing, and it was where MEU, all the shooting team, RHD, BAD, the BAD, was it Bunko? No, it's not called financial crimes. What is it called now? It was Bunko forgery. It was commercial crime, something else.
All sorts of stuff.
Yeah, so it was all of that. So it was in that building, and I worked there, and I worked the courts. What was after that? And then after the courts, then Southwest was my last.
You did patrol out there?
No, I worked in area office. I was the timekeeper for a while. I did different stuff, subpoena control. I worked along with the watch commander, but it was patrol because I wore the uniform, and I worked out with the watch commander. And I would do a lot of the stuff I would do was sergeant's work. It would just be the sergeant's work and stuff like that. And that was my last assignment before.
Do you ever miss being a cop?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sometime I'll see someone, being in Los Angeles, you're going to be,
Yeah.
Los Angeles. And yes, you do, because there is a family thing there. And I will say this, though, if once you're gone, you're gone. That, unless you have, I would say, a lot of friends that were actual friends, not coworkers, friends, because coworkers are just that, they are coworkers. And once you're not there, then relationship is gonna end. But then there is like I said, there is a family there that when you're on the job, I'm gonna say this too, it's a sense of protection there too.
Yeah.
That's there when you are there. Because to me, it feels like LAPD life and life. They're two different things. And when you leave, because to me, when you leave that, you see the real world, or you see the world outside of that, and it's different. At least that's the way I saw it. Because I didn't realize, like, when you're on the department and you're in that whole culture and environment, there is a shelter there, somewhat. No, I'm not saying, because you do go out and you are seeing things, but I'm talking about in your personal life, because it's different. If you're in an area, it's different to work it than to live in it. So so you're seeing things outside of the LAPD eyes. So it's different.
Interesting.
Yeah, you see it. It's different, because I would see certain things like, I didn't know. Really? When was that? Or I'll see something that it just seems totally different, because I was in a different. My eyes were fixed on something else. You don't realize that.
I think I saw that going into the police department, because I was born and raised where I work.
Oh, okay.
So I had a different view on what police work was,
Okay.
or what I thought it was.
Okay.
And then going in and realizing some of the things you thought you'd do different, or you found yourself doing the things you said you wouldn't do, but it's not for any bad reasons. It's just this whole perspective of staying safe,
right,
more than anything.
Because when you went on, well, you're an explorer, so you were pretty abreast of of how things run.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. We were a lot more involved with the tactics and going to ride-alongs and working at front desk.
And you'd be out. I'd also see you out, like if there was some sort of parade or some sort of thing or incident, you'd be out there too.
Yeah, a lot more involved. Because the program began as a way to bring the good kids and transition them into police work. So when I was in it, there was still a lot of that. So we're very involved with how to carry ourselves, so professionalism. You don't really have a lot of that right now because you don't need it. But we went on ride-alongs. We were out there. We worked security details to make money for our summer trips. So yeah, I was definitely in tune, as a lot of us were, with what police work was, for sure. But still, I kind of just little things like people that sell tamales on the corners and stuff. Would see the cops come, ticket them or take their stuff, and I'm like, I'm not going to do that. And you'd come on, and I found myself on one of those task forces.
Oh yeah, well, if you're on a task force,
well, as the uniform presence, I was just standing there, and I was getting a lot of crap from the community.
For not.
And it felt
for doing something.
Well,
with
because
them?
That task force, they would cite everybody.
Oh, okay.
They would
take their stuff.
They'd take their stuff, throw them, and then people are like, "Hey, that's how they make money, this and that." And then you'd have business owners like saying thank you.
Right.
You'd have the people who saw me as Hispanic. I'm Hispanic and Asian, so the people who saw me people who recognized or identified me as Hispanic, they'd be like, "How could you do this to your own people?"
Yeah.
It's just weird mix of emotions, and I'm like, I used
Right.
to eat from that exact corner,
Yeah. Oh,
you know,
wow.
and now I'm here doing this. How do I feel about that? So the transition was interesting for me coming in, and so it's very interesting to hear your perspective on kind of the transition going out. You know, I have a handful of friends who retired last year,
Hmm.
and you know, they miss it a lot, or they feel guilty when they see maybe the civil unrest that happened. They felt guilty that they weren't there, like they
Oh, okay.
chickened out or something like that. So,
I get it.
and a lot of what I hear too is, you know, once you're done, you know, it's all family, family, family. Once you're done, you just shut off.
Yeah, I think it depends on how you exited, what was, that whole thing. And I will say this, though, with being an officer, it opens your eyes to a lot of things, okay? And, for me, if you want to talk about my childhood, wasn't raised in the street. I was not street knowledgeable. I remember my training officers asked me what a Roscoe was or something. And I go, what? I had no idea. I didn't know
That's
what
an
it.
old school
Yeah,
name for
because
a
that's, they were old.
yeah.
And, and GAT, things like that.
Yeah.
I was raised in Windsor Hills, Baldwin Hills, Windsor Hills, View Park. I was in Jack and Jill. Oh, goodness. I was these like little society clubs,
Yeah.
that my parents put me in. So I was in Jack and Jill. I was a dancer. Uh, you just never had police involvement in me or my family. I wasn't on the street. I didn't understand the street
Yeah.
until I came on the department. And I remember when I made one of the arrests, and I'm talking to the guy, and I remember asking him questions because I was trying to run his rap sheet,
Hmm.
and I didn't realize people lie to
Yeah.
you. So he's telling me,
Interesting.
no, no, I didn't do it. I said, okay, and I'm right. And then I go and run, and it's long, and I said, well, you lied. And my trainer, I was just kind of laughing, like, because it's the way I said it, like, you don't know that, people are not going to tell you the truth, and this and that and the other. And I had to learn all of that, but it didn't take long for me to learn it.
Yeah. Good.
Okay, it didn't take long. Trust me, it will make you the situation in the radio calls will make you learn it. So, and then you start to see how people that are doing things that they shouldn't operate. You start to see that. See, because I wasn't around that, so I wasn't. That was something that was learned to me. And so when you're off the department, and you've seen all these things, you've dealt
Yeah.
with people and different types of people and stuff. And now, when you see them or see the situation, you can smell it. You're like, oh, okay, I know what this is.
Yeah. I think for me, just how good of liars
Mhm.
criminals are.
Mhm.
They're they're so they lie so much that they believe their own lies,
Well, yeah,
and
that's
it's
that.
we become experts at trying to figure out who the liars are just
Liars,
naturally.
body language, everything. I
Yeah.
totally got abreast of all of that. That body language, just liars,
I
just everything.
This one time there was these prostitutes near school,
Hmm.
and my training officer was like, "Okay, go find out their real name, their street name, what tracks they work." You know, the senior lead officer wants all that info. So I'm there, trainings officer, talking to another prostitute. I'm like, "Hey, you know, what's your street name?" Blah blah blah. And she was like, "I am so offended that you think I'm a prostitute. I need to talk to your watch commander, this and that." I'm like, "Oh crap, I'm in trouble." And then my training officer talks to him, and we pull up her rap. And she's been arrested over 100 times for prostitution, but she was so good at just
Yeah,
lying. I
had you
felt
messed
bad.
up. Uh huh. Yeah,
So
yeah. Those one of the thing, and another thing I had to learn was when someone was like kind of like 51, 49 and a half.
uh-huh.
They're not, you know, and you know, we got a call, and my training officer said, okay, let me see what you gonna do. So he, already kind of knows the situation, And I'm not knowing. So I go in and I'm talking to the lady saying, well, I can't, find my baby and my granddaughter or whatever. It was a kid, a baby. And I was like, oh, okay. So she's really, telling me, and I'm thinking, okay, so is she missing? I'm really trying to get to the thing. My officer's standing up back there like, I'm gonna see how long it takes her to get that, that the lady is not all there.
Right.
So, I go on and go on. She said, and I looked under the bed, and me, being naive, looks under the bed. Look under the bed, and I can hear him go, like that. And he's trying not to, because he don't want to get in trouble for, And she, I'm looking around and looking around. And I'm just like, I turn back and look. I don't know if she's missing, and I'm really trying to do this thing, and finally he kind of jumps in and kind of help because I had only been out maybe a month at that time, and she just somebody that's called before, and she does that, and she can't find this child that she doesn't have.
Oh,
And
got it.
I don't know why she does it, and I go, oh, he said, yeah, I was just going to see how long it kind of took you to realize that there's no child, But then I felt kind of dumb, you get in the car after you deal with the call, you deal with all the aspects of the call or whatever, and I remember that being in my rating, him
Really?
writing that in, in the rating, that I responded to a call and handled it, but it took her a minute to realize, blah blah blah. The person was 5150, and
Yeah, I mean, you gotta. It's a totally different type of mentality you got to take on. So, like when I see P1s probationers not get it right away, that's not a bad thing. It's just the bad thing is if they don't adapt and
learn. And
right.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, that's true.
I have all these stories coming in my head, but we'll be here forever if I talk about all of them. But you really learn from your mistakes, and a handful of them, at least in my career, were like, holy shit, mistakes. I'm glad nothing happened.
I know.
And as long as you can be mature enough to admit it to yourself, you can learn. And what I want is people to take those mistakes and share it with their partners. Be like, hey, I messed up here.
Oh, yeah.
But we don't do a lot of that.
Yeah, you kind of, it's almost made you feel kind of weird with your mistakes,
Yeah.
I just, I had a few little, I had one, if you want to talk about suspension, trouble. I remember I was on probation, and we were doing, we had a, because officers like to tease. And you do something funny or messed up.
Imagine these days with social media.
Oh, I know, but they used to, like the little papers on the wall, or
we still do that.
You draw and
still
stuff.
There.
So we had a, just a regular inspection after roll call, just a quick one, not.
Yeah.
And we have to unload our guns. So our guns are empty because we had gun, check, so weapons check, and so. We had to reload, put everything back together and everything. So I went to the loading barrel and I'm doing whatever it is, my little Beretta 92F. Boom! Right into the loading.
On probation?
Mm-hmm. Right into the loading barrel, which is where you're supposed to, if you're going to have one of those.
That's probably what saved you. Yeah.
And I remember going, I'm laughing now because it's funny. But it wasn't funny at the time because I knew. And the dust, because there's dust in there to catch the,
sand.
And it was like, I was like, ooh. And I'm not laughing, but, nobody really heard it. Okay. Nobody really, I remember going like this. But some said no. Somebody always hears something.
Yeah, you don't.
Yeah, and so that was noted in there too on my little days off. Oh, nobody heard it, but she came forth to tell. So what happened is I put the gun down. I went and got the sergeant, and I kind of said it matter of factly too. I was like, oh, yeah, my gun just went off in the barrel over there, but it's okay, right? You know, he's like, huh? I said, no, it just went off, but it was in the dust, right? So I'm gonna just go ahead and put it back together. But I just thought I'd tell you. He was like, oh man. So now, that's a shooting.
Yeah.
So he had to try to dig in there and get the casing out, and
with all the cigars in there,
yeah,
and
then
the cigarette
cigarettes
butts.
and stuff, and you have to do an investigation.
Yeah.
I took a day for that, and training, because now you got to go to training because something so obviously you didn't do right. Is going off like that,
right?
I still don't know what I did. The next,
it happens.
They had quick draw. They were drawing stuff, and they said quick draw something and all kind of stuff. And they had McKinney up there and a gun and smoke, and then like they would tease me. They walk by, like, "Hey, you gonna quick draw?" And it just, yeah. That was one. That was.
There are several. I'll try to tell you once we turn off the mics.
Oh yeah, because
I'm just kidding.
I'm not on the job, so
yeah,
anymore. So I feel comfortable. Yeah. I mean, it was nothing. I legit took the days.
It happens. It happens.
Because there was one that happened with a shotgun, not me, in the central parking lot, and that was covered parking.
I heard about that one.
See, that one was. That's scary, but
you hurt.
You can get hurt, because how many times have somebody chambered in the locker room? Never mind.
Earmuffs.
I know, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Well, you are. Thank you for sharing the story.
Mm-hmm.
I feel honored that you've never spoke about it. I hope that after we leave today, if you need it, you get your support. Because although this can be helpful, it could also re-traumatize and stuff like that. I think you know that.
Mm-hmm.
But you're very brave, and I hope it helped you to talk about it. I never usually ask my guests to talk about it, and actually, this is the first time that somebody has.
Mm-hmm.
And you just went right into it. I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
I've done a lot of work to be able to do that. Like I said, I've done a lot of work on me, and I've done a lot of work with that situation and just other, just life in general, because that's not the only thing that's that's traumatized me in my life. And so, I just done a lot of work and to understand, not so much, I know what happened, but to understand how it makes the body work or respond and things like that. And with knowing that helps, because then I don't feel so, like, oh gosh, why do I feel this way? Or am I, weak, quote unquote, and this type of thing. But like I said, very, very much human. And I would worry if you were to say nothing, was going on with you. And like I said, it's different degrees with people, and it manifests itself, and it looks a little different with people, but it's still there.
Yeah.
And I just ask people that have never really been in a situation that's caused trauma, to not judge other people that do have post-traumatic or that have gone through things, because that's one of the things that's very hard on someone that has post-traumatic stress. It's is judgment, being judged, and that's one of the things that they're afraid of, is being judged. And because maybe you don't want to do something, or maybe you don't want to go to that area because it happened over there. Because you can see a person, and sometimes they can not mean any harm, or maybe they do, but they'll say, "Oh, come on, it's not that bad." Well, no, maybe not to you, it's not that bad, but because it didn't happen to you. So you have to be patient. If you're in a relationship, with significant other or whatever, with someone that has gone through some sort of trauma, or just with a highly stressful job, because police work is stressful. Then there needs to be an understanding, and that you are there for them and supporting, but also the person that the trauma is happening to has to meet as well, and get help if that is what's needed, to be able to make that work. Otherwise, it's going to start clashing and
Yeah.
booming, and fire bombs, and things are going to start happening.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we met, and you have my number.
Right.
If you ever need anything, just text me or call me. I think that today's discussion could help a lot of officers who might be going through similar things,
Mm-hmm.
and in the future who sadly will be going through similar things.
Mm-hmm.
It's very powerful that what you shared and your experiences in the last 24, 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for your bravery and for opening up and for being vulnerable here with somebody you just met and with Jack Booz there in the corner.
Oh, I know. He made me so comfortable back there. I love animals, and I love their whole vibration, because you have support animals.
Yeah.
And that's why they use them.
He's definitely my emotional support, 100%. If you ever want to borrow him, you can.
Yeah, look at him.
He just soaks up energy. And
yeah. And and I've just always been one that likes animals, particularly cats, but I know I don't.
Got my mom a cat.
But I like animals, just nature in general, and animals and those sorts of things I've always liked, and I'm always comfortable around. So that's when you brought the dog, you said you were coming with the dog. I was like, oh, that's just awesome. That just really brought down any anxiety that I had, because like I said, I wasn't really nervous. I was just like, okay, getting through the interview, was one of the, it was kind of like, oh my God, I know I'm going to bring tears, but I'm no longer embarrassed of that, except if I'm like out, and then the person's like looking at you like, what's wrong with you?
Because they don't know where it's coming from.
Yeah, they just looking like, I had one time it happened and I couldn't help it, and they said, are you okay? I said, yeah, I just felt like I just had to cry. I had to cry, just one of those things. And everything is still fresh. Once I lost my son, everything was real, really fresh there. So, and then the holidays just bring all of it back. So, and I've always been a person that loves the holidays, hence the name Autumn. But my name change comes from deeper issues than that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So that's why, I said, well, we do the interview. I'm Janet McKinney, because Janet McKinney was on the job,
right.
And is known more so as Janet McKinney as opposed to Autumn Stars. And Autumn Stars is really, that's me. I mean, meaning, and I gave myself that name. People will often wonder if it's real, a real name, when I'm telling someone, Autumn Star, is that real? Well, it is now.
Yeah.
I mean, the judge said it, he hit the gavel.
Nice.
And so, and it took me a while to come up with that name, because it was going to be something else, and, it's going to be, Autumn something else, and then something else Autumn, and then Star, and I was going to have Star as my first name.
Mm-hmm.
I've always been a Galaxy girl. You can see right here by that Saturn
Nice.
tattoo. You know what I'm saying? I'm really out there when it comes to, type of thing. There's one thing I wanted to mention that I didn't mention as far as PTSD, just to put it out there. And there's post-traumatic stress disorder, and there's complex post-traumatic stress disorder. And with post-traumatic stress disorder, it's usually a one-time event, like maybe a car accident or shooting or something like that. It's just kind of a one-time event. that's big. But with complex post-traumatic stress disorder, it happens with long lines of abuse because it's a situation that's the trauma is happening on a, over and over and over again, with the inability to get out of it, or at least the perceived inability to get out of it. So it happens with a lot of times, like I said, abuse. And the abuse doesn't have to be a relationship. It can be abusive job. It can be anything that's abusive towards you. Also, people in captivity, things like that, where it's an ongoing type of trauma and things that are happening on an ongoing basis. That's complex post-traumatic stress disorder, and it has just a little bit of different, one more layer than post-traumatic. But usually when a person has complex post-traumatic, they also have post-traumatic as well. Yeah, just wanted to put that out there.
No worries. There's a great book. Oh gosh, I hope I can remember the name. It's helped me understand people I care about around me.
Mm-hmm.
Part of the name is the body keeps the score.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Have you read it?
No, but it's one on my list. I read a lot. That's another thing I do. I've read a lot of books like that.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a big reader, but
Mm-hmm.
that book captivated me, and it helped me understand people around me that annoyed me.
Okay.
You know, I was
Okay.
like,
Mm-hmm.
or I didn't like,
Mm-hmm.
but I wanted to like.
Mm-hmm.
And then knowing their backstory and kind of reading this book about exactly what you're talking about, it just made sense, made it kind of like, I accept this person for who he or she is and what they went through.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, yeah. Do you have the book?
No, it's on my list.
I'm buying you the book.
Oh, thank you. Yes,
sure.
that's definitely, because I am a survivor of abuse. So I that's how I know, how I come to know complex post-traumatic stress disorder. So yeah.
You're definitely very in touch with, and it comes with many years of it, obviously, of therapy, and but you're very in touch with where it's all coming from.
Yeah.
And that's huge because a lot of people go into their 40s and 50s and never even touch on who they are.
Right.
So good for you in that sense,
And that's really important, because when you're doing therapy, you can be on this over here, you're shooting or whatever it is that happened, but they're also going to touch in the beginning and where the root. And if you don't get the root of whatever's going on, it makes it hard. So you got to get to the root of where, because to be honest, you were a person before LAPD.
Right.
There are some things that may or may not have happened to you before you came on LAPD. That doesn't go away. So the day you step on that black line, I don't know if they still do that, but the day you step on that black line in LAPD, you've had 21 years of life. So somewhere in there, that could need some, tender loving care or whatever. And so throughout my journey, a lot was picked up, a lot was dealt with, and I learned a lot, and I was willing to learn a lot. A lot of YouTube, I'm telling you, people on YouTube and these survivors groups, they're better than most therapists because they've been through it.
Yeah.
And they're people that have done the work. So you have someone that's done the work and also someone that's been through it. That's a combination that's just great.
Yeah, doing the work, I think, is the daunting part for a lot of people.
And it's hard because I've done it, and that's how I've known a lot of things. And then to be able to, catch it and heal it, I had to recognize what I was doing. I had to recognize it. And then I got to the point where I would be in the midst of doing whatever that is and go, there it is right there. No, that's it right there. You got to stop doing this. It could be something that you think is really small, but this is right here I need to change. This right here I need to work out, get this out. So, I've been able to do that. And, yeah.
Good for you. I think your story could help a lot of people, and if you ever want to come back, maybe with other officers who've been through stuff and chat, even with or without the mics, you
Hmm.
know. Um, and I'd love to read your book.
Oh yeah,
So,
that's gonna be something. You know, because you know when you write a book, it's you know you bring up the
oh yeah,
feelings,
you're reliving.
but you gotta be able to put it on the paper, and it's going to be very you know because I'm not holding back.
Good,
It's a book, so I'm coming raw in it.
good.
So you see what I'm
Wow.
saying? So I'm coming with everything that's just
Yeah,
raw and
I already know that's going to help a lot of people.
yeah, because I don't want to hold back because you know you need to be able to you know put it out, and it helps me
Of course.
you know to be able to feel I can you know put it out there and not care. I don't know if that's the right word, but maybe it is, and not mind if someone because you're always going to have anytime you come public with something, there's always going to be somebody that says something or you know just like the internet. You know
Yeah.
you have you know, something, you can have something as simple as a butterfly on a cat's nose, and somebody's gonna have something to say. I mean, if people start arguing over that,
If you're at a certain place in your life and you come out confident, none of that
yeah,
could touch you.
yeah, it doesn't, and that's something that
And
I,
those people need help themselves.
for real, they're trolls, and you know, need help because I can see people will start arguing about, I'm like, what is a picture of a flower? How does that? I mean, I don't get it, you know, but you know, they do, and so
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, so and then I'll show you that other book, that other officer's
Cool.
book.
Yeah, yeah, we'll do that. So I'd like to just end the podcast with
Okay.
um, maybe your favorite or a memory of Mario or of you know that time when you guys were working patrol.
Um,
I know I didn't prep you for this.
no, I
Sorry.
know. I was trying to think of the one. It was a call where I was driving, and and I, you know, we were just coming to their call, and I was driving, and I, you know, kind of hit the curb a little bit, you know, you know, kind of bounced my way in. And when I got out the car, he was like, "Whoa, whoa, that's why the car's out of alignment." I see, you know. I just remember that, you know. I remember him saying that. We laughed about it. I said, "Shut up!" I just didn't.
Nothing happened.
Yeah, you know, and you know we laughed about it, but I did. I came in and I kind of
Autumn, I won't tell anybody.
yeah, don't tell anybody. That's why they had to be able to shop after that, you know. But yeah, that
Thank,
I just remember that one. I do remember that.
thanks, Mario, for not telling anybody.
Right, and then I remember talking to him about his last name.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, because I said, you know, Navidad. I don't think I've known anybody with that last name. And that means Christmas, right?
yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't know if it had some other dual, you know, meaning if it's somebody's last name, but you know. So yeah, I was remember going Feliz Navidad. You know, we were just stupid. You know, stupid
Oh
stuff you
yeah.
do. You know, just have fun. But yeah,
Thanks, Autumn.
thanks for having me.